Hey everyone, how's it going? Brandon here. I just wanted to give a quick update, just to kind of let you know where I'm at, what's been going on. I've been very silent. I haven't posted anything or said anything on my channel in a while, and the reason is simple. I really don't know what to say or what to post, and there are a couple of updates that I want to give you about the house in particular. And then I can give you a couple of updates about me, but I guess as it relates to my situation concerning my health, my studies, and things like that, really not much has changed. It's still a roller coaster for me. I never know how I'm going to feel from one day to the next. Sometimes it seems like I'm making progress and feeling better, and then suddenly just, things get a little crazy. I won't go into detail on that. I'm sure I've mentioned some of that in the past. It's a little gory sometimes, but anyway, as you can see right now, I'm in my van, which is, it has not only become my, I guess my temporary house, but until I find another lodging or get the Villa, my Kominka, fixed with the earthquake resistance, it is my primary residence, this van, because that's the first big update I want to give you about the house. I thought I was going to go to the house and make some video about it and do something a little nicer, but the bottom line is, because of school, distance to my house, and my health, it's just too difficult. And it's also a financial strain. Driving all the way to my house is about 2 hours, so a 4-hour round trip for gas, just to go there and shoot a video and come back. When I could just tell you the update without going there. There's no reason to go there. Actually, the documents that I received from the city government, I have here in the van. It won't mean anything to you unless you can understand Japanese. If you can understand how to read Japanese, then it will make some sense to you. But even so, I think a lot of it you wouldn't understand, because it's very detailed engineering information and seismic charts. And the bottom line is that, to make it simple, over a year ago, I learned about a subsidy that they had available for my particular situation. For houses that were older, beyond a certain age, as long as you could prove that the house was older than about, I think it had to be maybe older than 40 or 30 years old. I can't remember. Obviously, my house is like very old. It's around approximately 200 years old, so it's obviously old. But the problem is that it had to be proven on paper. So this is another one of those funny things about Japan. The processes, the paperwork, the stamps, these things have to be done. So even if common sense shows otherwise, you can literally look at the house and everybody agrees, whoa, yeah, that house is definitely very, very old. It's well over 100 years and possibly over 200 years old. Yeah, we can approve that for a subsidy. No. There's none of that here. It still has to be proven on paper that it was registered beyond a certain number of years ago. And this is just to prove on paper, from a legal point of view, that the house itself is older than that, and they won't accept anything else. So even if a professional comes in with a document and signs it and stamps it and says this house is 200 years old, apparently it's not good enough. It has to be registered with the city office. So it took a while, but finally I got that worked out. I don't know if any of you remember this from a video that I made many months ago, but the reason it was difficult for them to find the information on the house is because they were looking it up underneath my name. But I've only owned the house for a couple of years, and at the time they were looking it up, I had only owned it for about maybe a year or so. So when they were looking up these documents that were filed with the city from a long time ago, of course they're not going to find my name on there. So I provided them with the family name and the address to the house of the people who sold the house to me, and immediately they found it. I'm the one who came up with this idea, by the way. They didn't say, what about the owner of the house? You know, this is an old house. Who owned it before you? They didn't think of that for some strange reason. The thought never occurred to them to ask me who sold me the house. So when I told them that, luckily the house has been in that family for a very, very long time. I think it was originally built by that family. So it has been in that family for a very long time until they sold it to me. So you could say I'm the first owner of the house that wasn't part of the original family. So it's my honor. But they finally got that worked out, and they were able to approve the subsidy. And the subsidy basically is just a detailed inspection by a couple of engineers. And from the time I applied to the time they came out to inspect, it took several months, maybe 6 months or so, for them to come out. And they called me ahead of time to let me know, we're going to be out on this particular day at this time. Is that okay? Plus, the subsidy covers the whole cost except for 10,000 yen, which is basically about $70. So it's a great deal. If you pay for this service, otherwise, if you just pay a company to come in and do a seismic or earthquake resistance inspection on your house, it can cost thousands of dollars. Depending on what you want done and how extensive, and if they do other buildings or not, it can be very, very expensive. So only paying 10,000 yen is unbelievable. So they came out, two guys, one middle-aged guy and one younger guy. They came out, they were very cool. They went around the house with some interesting looking equipment. They had cameras and stuff like that with them. They took pictures everywhere. They even climbed up into the attic. So there's the second people to climb up that ladder, that rickety ladder into the attic after Michael. He went up there. God bless him for going up there. But the younger guy, he scampered up there, and I was surprised. You know, I was gonna say, hey, be careful, but he took off up there before I could say anything. I guess he's used to doing that kind of stuff. But good for him. They took pictures under the house, all over. All of my concerns, they addressed those things. They took pictures of all of the problem areas where the rocks have fallen, where they showed where the house is out of level. They showed the center of the house, what should be the the center of gravity, and then they showed me where the center of gravity actually was. And this is very important, because where the center of gravity is supposed to be is the most balanced place. And when the center of gravity is off, that means that there's pressure leaning that way, and that's not good. So the center of gravity is off. I saw it on a diagram. I don't know how far it is, but just based on eyeballing it, it looks like it's off by a couple of feet, and I think that's pretty significant. But ultimately, I said all that to say this: the information that matters the most is the rating that they give it. I don't know how the earthquake resistance ratings work in other countries, but I have learned the basics of the way they work in Japan. A very basic, like minimal acceptable rating for a residence, for a house, just a regular everyday house for a person to live in, should have at least a 1.0 rating. But the preference, according to the government, is, or at least what they told me, is 1.25. So if it's 1.0, it can be approved. But if it's 1.25, it's highly recommended. And of course, anything above that is even better. If it's low, it's not recommended. And of course, anything lower than 1 is going to be at greater risk of collapse during an earthquake, depending on the size of it. Other types of buildings, like, for example, schools, hospitals, and similar structures like that, have to have a rating of at least 2. So I found this very interesting, because that's obviously much more resistant to earthquakes and such. But there's actually another rating level for 3.0 rating and above. And can you guess what buildings those are? I thought that the hospitals and the schools might fall into those categories, but I was wrong. Those are just 2.0 and up. I'll give you a moment to think about it. If you know, Okay, here it is. Any building that's related to the public services, like the fire department buildings, the police stations, etc. Those types of buildings must be rated 3.0 and above. And at first I was kind of like, well, it kind of sucks that the hospitals and the schools aren't rated as high, but in a way it also kind of makes sense that the emergency services are rated even higher. But I do feel kind of bad about that. I don't know about you, but that's just my personal feeling. You can let me know how you feel in the comments if you like. But anyway, after all of that, after they did the inspection and everything, they got back to me just, like a month and a half ago or so. And time is kind of going by a little strangely for me right now because I'm in studying in school and I'm living out of my van, and I'm in a daze right now because I'm also sick, but with something else, by the way. I've got some kind of virus. But anyway, I got the report back and they called me in to talk to me about it, actually. So when they gave me the folder with all the information, they took the time to sit with me and explain it to me. They wanted to make sure that I understood the condition of the house, what needed to be done, and the seriousness of the situation. On a scale of 0 to whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, my house is rated 0.14. 0.14. So it's so low on that spectrum. Like I told you before, that first category rating of acceptable level of earthquake resistance is 1.0, and this rating is like 14% of that. 14% of where it needs to be at the minimal. And of course they showed me all the reasons why. You can probably guess all the reasons why. It hasn't had the maintenance that it needed all these years, and there's been some erosion. Literally, the house sits on posts and sticks that sit on top of rocks that sit on top of the ground. That hasn't changed. There's no cement under the house. There aren't any cement blocks or concrete or anything, or no slabs or nothing that's been poured under the house to help hold the posts and everything in place. It's literally just sticks, posts standing on rocks, and rocks sitting on the dirt. Some of those have fallen over because the dirt has been eroded or shifted, and so that's caused parts of the floor to become spongy or weak. Even some areas where the wood is a little rotten, if you step on it, your foot will go through. Also, the water, for some reason, they ran a channel of water under the house, and over time that has eroded directly under the middle of the house, and I think that's the main reason why the house is shifting, and it has lost its center of gravity. So it can be fixed, but of course I don't know the cost of what it would be to get it fixed. But there are a couple of takeaways from this. The first one is it's quite unsafe to sleep in there. It's one thing to be there working and cleaning. They told me that if you're in the house and you get an earthquake alarm or you feel an earthquake, you should immediately get out of the house, because if there is an averaged, just a decent size earthquake, there is a very good chance that the house will collapse, at least partially. So it's important that I immediately rush out of the house. And of course, according to them, how can you do that if you're asleep? Even if you wake up and you get an alert on your phone, you only have a couple of seconds. I've been through a few earthquakes in Japan, and I've gotten the warning. I don't always get the warning. Sometimes I don't get it. But even when I do get the warning, from the time that I get the warning to the time I feel it, it's just a few seconds. It's definitely not enough time to get out of the house. So if there's a significant earthquake in that area and I'm asleep, the house can be down on me before I'm actually out of the house. So sleeping in the house is something that, in Japanese style, they wouldn't tell me directly, don't do that. But their uneasy body language and the indirectness of their comments and what they said basically said, absolutely do not go there to sleep. Just go in and out to clean or do some work. They even told me that if I can find somebody to fix the roof, I can do that too. But don't actually stay in the house. So there we go. There's that. I guess it doesn't really matter so much right now because, like I said, financially and time-wise, it's very difficult for me to drive. It's too difficult for me to drive from Onomichi all the way back to the house and back 5 days a week, or even once a week right now. Even once a week, I can't even afford once a week. Just paying for the gas to go from here in Mihara at the roadside station where I'm able to park for free any time of the day or night and sleep. That's a blessing because lots of travelers pull over and sleep there, and it's encouraged and allowed. But I still have to pay for gas to drive from there to the school. It's about a 15-minute drive, so 30 minutes of driving every day. The time is okay, but that's gas I have to pay for. Spending extra gas to go to my house, for what reason? I need to go there at least sometimes to check mail, but that's pretty much it. Other than that, spring is coming up, so I'm sure the grass is going to start growing. I have to think about how I'm going to get that cut. Physically, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it, but at the very least, I need to try to keep it trimmed around the house. I don't want it to get out of control. But excuse me just for a moment. Let me get some water. Today is Friday. My birthday was last Tuesday, March 5th. Today is the 8th. On Wednesday, yesterday, and today, I didn't go to my language school. And this is why. I still feel pretty bad today. My nose won't stop running. I still have consistent cough. My head is stuffy, congestion. Don't feel good. Very tired. It's 7 degrees. In the middle of the day in Mihara today was 7 degrees. A little chilly, 7 degrees Celsius. But my body just couldn't get warm today. I've been freezing. I've got my gloves on. Sometimes it's 0 degrees and I'm not wearing gloves, but today I'm just so cold today. I just can't feel comfortable and good. I sat right here. You can't see it, but there's a Cafe Gusto Cafe. If you haven't been to Japan, or you've been in Japan and don't know about it, it can be a great place for you to go, because if you need a place to sit down and study for a little while, or do some work on your computer, or just relax and have a drink bar, you can go there. You can also go to Caesarea. It's an Italian type restaurant, but it's got the same type of concept where you pay for the drink bar and you can drink as much as you want. The prices for the food are very cheap. But Cafe Gusto is more of a family restaurant. They have a variety of food, so they actually have some Japanese dishes, Chinese dishes, and they have a lot of Western style foods. Plus they have coffee and tea and other drinks on the drink bar, so you can sit there for several hours and just do whatever. And I was sitting there most of the day from probably about 10 o'clock until, I don't know, 2:30, 3 o'clock. And I really wanted to study, but just didn't feel like it. I'm just not feeling well. it's one thing to be dealing with a tumor, but on top of that, for the past few days, I just, like I told a friend earlier, I feel like going right down here and jumping in the ocean, because I'm just so tired of my nose is so, it's running so badly. It seems fine, and then suddenly water just comes out. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I'm just tired. I'm tired of illness. Tired of it. But I am doing some things to try to improve my health. I'll share one of those with you right now. This is a mix. I bought this container at Daiso. It's good, but it's also stupid because it does have a lid, but it doesn't seal. It doesn't stay closed. So if it gets knocked over, it will open. That's a stupid design. So I need to get a rubber band or something to put around it to keep it closed. But inside, I have a mixture of powders. If I can remember them all. There's ginger and cumin and garlic. There's actually Japan sea salt with Japan seaweed mix in here also. And one other thing, I can't remember what it is. It'll probably come to me later. But I take 1 scoop of this. When I go to the cafe, they have a chicken broth based soup in the drink bar. So even if you just buy the drink bar, you can have soup along with the drink bar. So I get a cup of their soup. I put 1 scoop of this in there, and I drink it. It's very strong, and I'm sure that it's contributed to my bodily fluids releasing over the past couple of days, because I just started this about 2 days ago. But that's one thing I do. And then later on in the day, I take another scoop and I put it in a shaker, and I mix that with, I don't know if oh yeah, I have a bottle right here. I mix that with lemon juice, turmeric and pepper that Jake gave me. And this is what I use as my base. This is a really awesome drink. It's almost 500 yen for 1 bottle, 900 milliliters. It's a kind of a big bottle. But it's a heavy green drink, no sugar added. And what's inside are just 3 things, okay? Just 3 things. It's got matcha powder, green barley leaves, and kale. That's it. I use this as a base. I put it into a 500 milliliter shaker cup. I add the lemon juice, I add the turmeric and the black pepper, and then I add this mix, and I shake it up really, really good. And I drink at least 1 of those every day. So between getting the soup with the bone broth with this in the morning, and then getting this in the afternoon, which I can actually drink this while I'm at the school having my lessons. I wound up getting 2 complete scoops of this throughout the day, or what? Yeah, two complete scoops of this throughout the day, and I think it's really, really helping to clean me out. The first day was rough because I had already started to get sick. It seems like as soon as I start something, that's what happens, is I freaking get sick. I don't understand it, because I haven't had a virus or anything for almost 2 years. The last time I had something like this was actually the coronavirus summer before last, and it was not a big deal. It was kind of, I caught it and it was gone in like a week, and I had a lingering cough just for a little while, and it was no big deal. But the flu-like stuff and these things I don't get very often. Usually 1.5 to 2 years in between getting stuff like this. But as soon as I decide to do something for my health, I get sick. It figures. But maybe this combination is really, really sticking it to this virus and helping me get over it faster. Because tomorrow, excuse me, tomorrow I was going to go to a calligraphy class. There's a lady here locally who lives in Mihara, and she does a calligraphy class with kanji. And I was going to go to that class. I was really looking forward to that, but I can't go in this condition. Even if I didn't care about those around me, I wouldn't feel up to it. I just feel miserable. Just a moment ago, I walked from the van down to the shopping center, only to stop in the supermarket, pick up some tissue and a couple of other little things. And just that little walk, I walked like a very old man, very slow. I was shaking the whole time. I don't know what it is. I feel so cold today. When I was looking at my phone, my hands were shaking. Just all the way to my core, I felt cold. That's not healthy, I think. That's not good. So I'm really hoping I can get better. Anyway, you can see my bedding in the back. I modified it a little bit for a couple of reasons. One is my friend Bainley came to visit. He and his wife came to visit a couple of weeks ago, and it was a really awesome visit. But I realized that because of the vastness of the bed that I had back there were two issues. One is it only left a small bit of room on the side, so when I needed to sit up to sit up in the van, or to pee in the bottle or something like that, put on my shoes, get dressed, it was too cramped. The second thing was, if I wanted it to be easier to modify to let people sit back there, then it was basically impossible with that large piece of plywood in the back. So instead, I got another piece of plywood, just 1/2 inch. This one is not 3/4. It's 1/2 inch plywood, and I had it cut to 70 centimeters wide, instead of using the full width of the plywood, which I think is around 158 or something. I don't remember, but basically I had it cut down to 70 centimeters, and I left the bucket seat in. You can't see it, but it's right under here, and it leans all the way back vertical. So I leaned that all the way back, and I put a toolbox, a big large toolbox I found that happened to be the right height to support the bed in the back. So the plywood lays on top of that, and then I have my comforter and cushion and all of that on top. It's been okay, but I had to do some adjustments on it recently because I wrenched my back a few nights ago, and I tried adjusting it. It wasn't any better. I wrenched my back again. So like 3 nights in a row, I was just waking up in pain. No matter what I did, it seemed like I just couldn't get it right. And finally last night, I made about, I would say, a 90 to 92% improvement, because overall I slept pretty well, and there was just a tiny bit of pain, but it wasn't keeping me awake, wasn't waking me up, and I didn't feel like trash when I woke up this morning. So the improvements I made were good. I didn't know if it was too firm or not firm enough, or if it was not, the support was not good enough or whatever, but I did a couple of things. One is I made it softer, and the reason is because I generally feel that I sleep better on a softer surface. So I took my other futon and I laid it on top of the cushion and the other futon that I already have on it, so it has like this really thick layer of padding. And then the other thing that I did was, that I think is really important, when I parked the van, I found a hill, because the bed on this side, it tends to drop down like this, so I think it was twisting my body and twisting my back, and that might have been wrenching my back. So I tried to counterbalance that by finding a hill and parking the van so that the bed was slightly at an angle, and then whenever I would get on the bed, it would level out more. That was the theory. Well, that's what I did last night, and the results were much, much better. So I'm going to try to park it basically in the exact same spot, or even a slightly more inclined slope. Because if it was mostly good, then maybe I need just a little bit more incline to make the surface flat. That's just my theory. I apologize. Can't really seem to stop the waterworks. It's been just at it nonstop all day. You should have seen the big wad of napkins that I had on the table earlier from just blowing my nose over and over and over and over again. And finally I got so embarrassed about it that I wadded them up, and I waited until nobody was around, and I snuck to the wastebasket and I threw them in the wastebasket. I didn't want the waitress to come over and have to take them, and I didn't want people walking by or the people sitting nearby to see this big mountain of napkins on the table. And it was bad enough that I was coughing and sneezing and blowing my nose constantly. That's when you get what I call the strong elderly Japanese stare of disapproval and shame. You know, when you're being too loud or you're doing something that's not acceptable, they don't really say anything. They'll just and you'll kind of stare at you and maybe groan or grunt a little bit. But luckily that doesn't happen to me very often, but today maybe a little bit, but it's okay. All right. As far as my health is concerned, I hope to be over this virus crap by Monday. I need to get back into class. It's the last week of class before we go on break. We have a short spring break for a couple of weeks, and I'm going to meet a friend not too far from here to the east in Fukuyama. I've been there a few times. It's only like a 30-minute drive or something. And there's actually an onsen there. It's a mixed bath onsen, so men and women can go into the bath together. I've never been in one of those, so it'd be very cool for me to go see that and experience that. I'm looking forward to that. So maybe I'll share that with you guys whenever I get to go and experience that. As far as my tumor is concerned, I still go to the doctor once a month. My next appointment is on the 28th, I believe, of this month, somewhere around the end of the month. The doctor is going to give me a CT scan to see what the tumor is looking like and to make sure it's not growing or spreading. He wants to check, my chest, because I do have a spot on my lung that's been there for years. It hasn't grown, but he wants to keep an eye on it, and he wants to keep an eye on any other areas that may indicate that the tumor is spreading, as well as the size of the main tumor itself, if it's growing or if it's the same, or if it's gotten smaller or whatever. And please keep me in your thoughts and prayers about this visit, because I'm going to try to get him to recommend a couple of other treatments for me. The way it works here is that if you want to do some other treatments that are not the main treatments that the hospital will do, for example, here the only treatment that they're offering me directly is chemotherapy, and I don't want to do chemotherapy. I don't know what your opinion is. It doesn't really matter. My experience is that I don't want chemotherapy, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Don't try to talk me into it. But I can do other things and get coverage, or at least partial coverage, on insurance, as long as the doctor recommends it. And I think that's a little unfair, because if a doctor doesn't want you to go and get like acupuncture or some heat therapy like moxibustion, something that I hadn't really thought about until Saori Sensei mentioned it to me, but if I go get that on my own, I have to pay for it, just pay for it directly. It's not too expensive, but for somebody who's not making any real income right now, that's very difficult. However, the doctor could lessen that burden by actually recommending it, and then whenever I go to the clinic, I get that referral letter, and then my insurance will cover a portion of that. That would be a tremendous blessing, because there are some clinics here in Mihara that offer the heat treatment, acupuncture, things to help get the blood flowing that would greatly help my leg. And the heat treatment, I believe, would help to destroy the tumor, because I don't know what you know about moxibustion. It's a heat treatment where a certain area is heated up to a higher temperature, and of course these bad things in your body can't live under such temperatures. So when you put that into isolated areas of your body, it can be really effective in helping you to either recover or at least stymie the growth of some diseases. And so what I'm hoping is to see some results and get some shrinkage of that tumor, because the smaller it gets, the more surgery becomes an option, which is something I don't want. I don't want surgery. But you know, if I can't get any more than just a little bit of shrinkage to have the tumor removed, then so be it. You know, I'll just have it removed. But right now, it's not possible for me to have surgery. The doctor says it's too dangerous due to the location of the tumor in relation to my artery. So, at the very least, if I can get the tumor to shrink enough, then I become a candidate for surgery to get all of that removed. And it's a big, dangerous surgery, but at least it becomes possible. And then when it gets to that point, we'll see. But the other thing is that, as far as my study is concerned, the JLPT exam for me is coming up in July. That's going to be my first JLPT exam. That is going to be the biggest first step for me. You might remember that because I was in the hospital last year, I missed more than 2 months basically of my classes lessons. So from chapter 1 or lesson 1 all the way to 20 of the Mina no Nihongo book, and the whole book is 25 lessons. I missed the first 20. So when I showed up to class, I started with 21, and then I only took 5 lessons, and we jumped into book 2. Book 2 is advanced, is much more advanced, and it builds on everything you learned in book 1. I was completely lost, and I'm still lost. I still have a very difficult time understanding what they're talking about, because a lot of the things that they teach you in later classes require you to understand some basic things from the earlier classes. So, for example, did you know, and some of you probably know this, but some of you may not. You might, if I say, do you know the word for wakarimasu? You might. I mean, do you know the word wakarimasu? For to know or understand. You can say, oh yeah, I know that. But that's not really very accurate. That's only kind of half true. There are many words, many forms of that word. And you might say, yeah, of course, you know, past tense, future tense, present tense. Yes, but there's also another tense that is the plain form or the dictionary form. And it just so happens that the plain form or the dictionary form is also kind of the casual form. Well, I always thought it would be like backwards. I thought the dictionary form would be like more formal, but it's not. Wakarimasu, or anything essentially with mas, any verb you're going to have mas, is more formal and polite. And if you hear ru on the end of a verb, this is a plain form, dictionary form, casual, more personable style of Japanese. And sometimes when you're learning a new point, now, by the way, this is a very simple concept, a very, very simple concept. If this is your first time hearing this, welcome to my world. But like I said, some of you probably already know this, if you're familiar at all with Japanese. But sometimes they'll give you, and I'm just using this as an example, it's not the only one, there are unlimited numbers of examples. But let's just say that the ru form of the verb supplies the necessary stem for a new grammar point. Okay, so you need taberu, which is to eat, all right? Not tabemasu, taberu. And then you have to add maybe something else to it. Or you have to drop something and add something, like te, tabete, tabete. But then the grammar point comes in, where you use the te form of the verb plus the grammar point together. So you have the verb plus te plus the new grammar point. Well, if you haven't even studied the verb in its plain form, and you're not very familiar with that, and you're not familiar with its various forms, and you're definitely not familiar with its te form and how to use it, then how are you going to be able to easily take all that and put it together with a new grammar point and understand it very quickly when the teacher is going over it in class in Japanese, 100% Japanese, very quickly, and not explaining anything to you in English at all? And I'm not saying that they have to explain things in English, but once again, you have to remember, I'm 20 lessons behind. But even more than that now, because they tossed me into lesson 21, and from then until now, I'm still lost. I mean, I haven't been able to make more than a 15, that's a 30% on my best test so far. I made 30% without any help. Without any help, I made a 30%. And that was after studying for a long, long, long time, and them giving me extra time to finish the test. After that, I just gave up. I don't care. I don't turn in homework. It's not because I don't want to. It's just because I can't. If I try to do the homework, I'll sit down and I'll get a headache trying to figure out, because I literally have to teach myself. I'm having to teach myself what the grammar points are. But I don't have the basis to understand those grammar points. So I have to go back and look at other lessons. Sometimes 3 other lessons I have to look at from a long time ago. And you might think, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Just go back and brush up on those things and come back. No, you don't understand. Going back and looking at those lessons can take many, many hours, because they do have the videos online that I can watch, and that's fine. But watching them, practicing them, understanding them, being able to use them, and then taking that information and applying it to new grammar points, understanding it, practicing with it, and then being able to successfully do the homework takes a very, very long time. And so by the time I do that, what about the other homework that I have? What about the kanji that they gave me? Because they give me kanji. I get between 18 and 24 new kanji a week. And when you get that kanji, you have to have a test the very next day. So you get 6 kanji, and you have to take a test on it the very next day. You have to be able to write it. You have to know what it says. You have to be able to write the hiragana or the katakana for the kanji. Basically both ways. If the kanji is written down, then you have to write the kana for it. If the kana is written down, then you have to write the kanji. And sometimes it involves multiple kanji characters, some of which come from past lessons that I didn't take. So that means that sometimes I don't have 6 new kanji to memorize. I have like 13 new kanji to memorize. Because when they give me these kanji for tomorrow's test, it has words. So the kanji, maybe the pronunciation is gyo. And that kanji for gyo is in a phrase or a word that has 2 other kanji. And I don't know those kanji because I wasn't there. So now I have 3 kanji instead of 1 to memorize for tomorrow. So just studying the kanji sometimes and trying to memorize it so that I can have a decent result on my kanji test the next day is time consuming enough. But to spend maybe 10 hours or more to go back and study the grammar points that I don't know, try to teach myself, and then come back and restudy the grammar points for the new stuff, and do the kanji study and the kanji homework, because there's also kanji homework, to do all of those things and prepare for the unit tests, because they're big unit tests basically every 1.5 weeks. To do all of that is too much for me. It's literally too much. So right now I just don't care. I don't care. I really don't care. The reason I don't care is because of what I mentioned before. The end of the semester is coming up. Next week is the last week before the break. And because of the way things played out with my first semester, they said that I should be able to start from zero, from class 1, with a new class. And I'm happy about that for a couple of reasons. The first reason is obvious. Because of missing the first 20 lessons, I actually will get to go back and start from lesson 1 and study everything with the class that I missed before. So that's the good thing. The second thing is, the class I'm in now, they're absolutely horrible. I'm not saying that every student in there is horrible. There are a couple of students in there that are really good. The guy that sits in front of me, if for some reason he's watching this, I think he's subscribed to my channel. You know, he's a good guy, and he's done a lot to help me. He's generally pretty quiet, but he even told me it's too difficult for him. He's going to retake. He wants to retake from the beginning. So he might be in my class to retake. But the rest of the class, especially these 2 girls in particular, most of the class are from Nepal. And there are 2 girls in particular. They have the most grating, grinding voices I've ever heard in my life. They're very, very loud. They can't say anything at all without being loud. And when they talk to somebody, it doesn't matter if they're right in front of them or across the room, they're going to use their same voice. And it just causes everybody else to get louder. I used a decibel meter in there, and it was almost the same loudness as a motorcycle. It got as loud as 96 decibels. A motorcycle is 100 decibels. This class was louder than rock music being played loudly on a stereo. My ears were hurting. One day in the class, I had to yell at them to be quiet. I told them in Japanese, "You're too noisy." And when I yelled that at them, they were just shocked. You know, they just stopped. You could hear a pin drop. And then I just said, please be quiet. And then the problem that I have is that I've been told several times by staff at the school, you have to understand their situation and where they're from, and they don't have this experience, and blah, 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 blah. They're just constantly making excuses for them instead of trying to get them a little more under control. There are definitely things that they can do to make the students quieten down. They can. I'm a teacher. I taught for a long time. I know how to get a class to be quiet. You set an example and you let everybody else know. First, you let them know, if you do this again, this is going to happen. Then when it does happen again, you make an example. Then after that, everybody's like, holy crap, he means it. And when I told this to the leaders, they thought that was nuts. They're like, we can't do that. Why not? They wouldn't answer me. All of the staff are Japanese. And I understand they don't like dealing with stuff directly. And this is one of the things that annoys me about working in Asia, because I had to deal with something similar in China. And it was really bad at a couple of points, where there were really big problems that were just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But the policy is this, you know, just don't look and hope that it will just work itself out. You know, that sort of thing. But they've made it very clear to me that because I'm just one person, they're not gonna try to cater to me. It's easier for them to try to tell me to understand their feelings. They literally asked me, how do you think it made them feel when you yelled at them? I might be dead next year. I might be gone. I might be in the grave next year. I am studying Japanese for a chance at working in the film industry and having my dream career. I spent almost my entire life doing a bunch of stupid crap that I didn't want to do, and not even getting paid well for it. I really believe that this is the number one reason why I got sick. Because I allowed the crap that I had to endure as a kid to affect me for too long. I didn't start trying to do anything about it and fix myself and change things until too late. And I started to get sick. And now I might not even be alive a year from now. I just had my 49th birthday a few days ago. I don't even know if I'm going to get to 50 years old. I was hoping that I would live to be 100, and I would just keep making films and making films and making films until the day I die. But when was the last film that I made? And I'm not talking about just some little videos at my house. I mean an actual real film where I took one of my stories and I got some people together, a crew, a cast, and I shot a real film. It's been a long time. It's been years. And how many films have I made in my life? Not many, just a few. I'm trying to live here. I'm trying to save my life. I'm trying to seize an opportunity. Because I was told that if I could speak Japanese fluently, there would definitely be opportunity for me here locally to be working in film. Because there's a good demand for the area that I want to be in. As a matter of fact, somebody very important, not just to me, but in the industry, told me face to face that my timing was good. That if I can get my health better and become fluent in Japanese, then my timing is excellent. I have a great opportunity right now. And these punks in the classroom, I don't care where they're from. I really don't care. I could not care less. They come from some poor areas, and I was told that even from poor areas and then out in the country, some of them have like 0 class experience. Some of them don't even have degrees. They're literally being brought into Japan to work as basically slave labor. They have a 3-way agreement with the government and these local factories. So the students come in and they work at the factory 28 hours a week. They go to school, and part of their money goes straight to the school. There's some kind of subsidy in there from the government, I'm sure. So everybody's making money. So the school doesn't care. And you want to hear something very interesting? I was told by a staff member at my school, it's very rare for somebody to go to a language school in Japan to learn Japanese. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? The stupid things that I had to do, the hoops that I had to jump through, the money that I had to spend just to get myself here, the degree that I had to have, the amount of years that it took me to find work, and even then I had to pay for my visa, which cost me over $1,000. The effort that I put in, even though I was a qualified, experienced, awarded teacher. I mean, I was even the tutor for a celebrity. And they still made it very difficult for me to come here. I'm from America. I'm not from some very poor country from the farm who doesn't know anything about etiquette or manners. And yet I was made to feel like it was practically impossible to get here. I finally got here. And then I walk into a classroom that basically cost $8,000 and gives me a 1.5-year visa only, student visa, with the intention of learning Japanese. And I'm told, well, yeah, the class is loud and unruly and all of that, but they don't really come here to study Japanese, so you should have known that when you came in here. When you saw the classes, you should have known that. All they do is put everything on me. It's all my problem. It's all my fault. I should have known better. And there's none of this, you're right, it's a language school. We should be teaching Japanese. If you come here and you pay to learn Japanese, then we should be teaching you Japanese. Those students need to understand how you feel. That's what I think. They need to understand how I feel. I could be dead tomorrow, next year, in a few years, I don't know. The clot that I had in my leg could have spread and it could have killed me. I could still have one. I'm not in good condition right now. Do they care about that? Do they know? And if they did, how would they feel? No one there is going to ask them these questions. You know, the staff, they know that what I've been through. They visited me in the hospital, and it wasn't to check on me. It was to see if I was going to enroll and pay. I didn't really have much of a choice at the time because I was going to have my visa, my health insurance, and everything revoked. I was going to lose my residency, and I was in the hospital. The immigration doesn't care about your situation. They'll just say, this is the law. You know, you don't have residency. It doesn't matter what your health is. We're kicking you out of the country. They'll put you on a plane and send you back to your home country. They don't care. Because that's what immigration is like. It's not like dealing with the local municipal government. So, I'm telling you, and I've been thinking about making a video specifically just about the language school, the Japanese language school problem here. But the reason I haven't is because it makes me angry, and you can tell that it makes me angry. If you go into a store and you say, I want to buy a TV. It's a TV store. You spend money, spend a lot of money, and then they give you this TV that came out like 30 years ago. And then they say, we don't understand. You know? I mean, those are the TVs we sell. You should be upset. I mean, if you complain about these TVs, the guy that makes those TVs back there, how do you think he's going to feel about it? What? This makes absolutely no sense at all. 0 sense. Nor does it make any sense for them to tell me that I should consider how the entire class feels when I tell them they're too noisy. Forget them. Screw them. I don't care about them. This program, whatever this program is that Japan is trying to do to fix its economy by just bringing in people, some of them high school age with no finished school, okay? It is going to lead to bad things in Japan, and that's my opinion. They need to really overhaul this system and do something a little better. There are a lot of people from different countries who have better skills, better education, better manners, that would be more than happy to come to Japan and do similar jobs. There's no reason for them to go scraping the bottom of the barrel. And once again, I'm not saying that every single person in the program is bad, but I am saying that a significant portion of what I'm seeing, it worries me. It worries me. And from what I've learned, this is how it is all across Japan, everywhere, because of the government policy. And a friend of mine, he sent me an article, and I've seen some other articles where some problems are popping up with this program all over the country. And there are also some guys from who've come here from other countries, even Nepal, and they've done really well. They're good workers. I'm not saying that all of them are bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's a problem with this system. There's a problem with the way they're screening this, because for the schools and for the factories, it's a money-making issue. It's all about making money and making profit. They literally don't care about the service they're providing or adding value to Japanese society. And those are the two things that it should be doing. Anyway, I guess that's all I have to say. Sorry to get off on a rant. I spent all my time by myself, so I guess I had some things to get off my chest. But anyway, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments section. And I hope that one of these days soon I can get a good time, reason, and ability to get over to the house and shoot some stuff, see what's going on there. Make sure it's still standing. But for now, that's it. Much love, and see you next time. Janne.